Welcome. It's day 2 of my 75 hard challenge. I'm happy to report it is so much better than yesterday. Uh, and I will share a few of those things. But before I do, I just want to encourage you today with a really amazing, it's not quite a story, but almost, and or something that has carried me through a lot of years. And so if you stick around these first few minutes, I would like to just I hope to give you some fuel for your day and for your journey. But if you watched my day 1 yesterday, you know that it was just a terrible day, and I got hit from out of left field with some emotional and relational stuff that just took me out at the knees. In fact, I found it fascinating that that happened on day 1 of the hard challenge, and it seems like there's some irony in how we can often make big commitments and when we prepare to make change, it's like all hell breaks loose to keep you from doing what you said you're going to do, and really getting the breakthrough that you need and you want. And so today has been a lot better. I am on the road, so it's kind of crazy. And in that, I spent 3 days preparing for my my challenge, but a lot of the stuff that I put into play isn't really what I'm using now or doing. And so I just had to kind of roll with things. But you know what? It doesn't mean the preparation wasn't valuable. In fact, in more ways it was. Because of the added challenges. But suffice it to say, I am so glad it's day 2, and I am excited to be doing this challenge. And so far, it's going pretty well, honestly. I've had a lot of time for some personal reflection, and it feels like it's definitely been a day. These first couple days have surprisingly been ones that I've just needed to take a little bit more time for myself. But you know what? That's part of the priority of this whole program. And so, learning to make ourselves a priority. So hopefully the traffic is not too bad behind me. But really, what I want to encourage you with and fuel you with is something that I have I've carried with me through the years, and drawn on when I've been discouraged, I've been frustrated, and when things have been really difficult in my life. And that is that my dad was a welder and fabricator. He worked in a welding shop most of my life. And so he talked about things like just a lot of stuff with metalworking and blacksmithing. And in different times he'd thrown out the words, or I'd heard the words tempered steel. And at some point when I was 13 or 14, he explained to me the difference between tempered steel and regular steel. Now, he explained the process, which is actually fascinating, and he just prefaced it by telling me that that the tempered steel was much stronger than regular steel. And so he just explained to me, what you probably have heard and maybe imagine yourself, but a blacksmith taking metal from the fire, in the forge, and plunging it into water, and then putting it back in the fire to heat it up, and then plunging it into water. And so he just simply explained that tempering involved a lot of heat and a lot of cooling, or heating and cooling, and that it was just stronger. Well, he passed away a number of years ago, and just got to turn off my phone because I'm getting some alerts. He passed away a number of years ago. And at some point, as I was just reflecting on his impact in my life and all the things that he had told me and what I'd learned from him, I was really pondering this thing about tempering and tempered steel. And I decided to look it up because I didn't really understand what it meant. And I was just trying to understand more. And I stumbled on some it was a really old Popular Mechanics article. I don't even know how it ended up on the internet, but I want to say it was from the 1930s or the 1950s. And in this article, which was super scientific and totally broke down a lot of words that we throw around, things like the word strength has a lot of different meanings. And in this article, they explained that strength had to do with the breaking point of something. So it was what something could endure before it broke. But there was even ways they measured the strength. There was, in fact, this is my little analogy. They now I think my camera's flipped, so I want to start on this side here with the short one. So they had a weight on a 10-inch rod of steel, 10 inches long and 1 inch in diameter. And they would just keep adding more and more weight. I guess my picture should be better here. It should be a much bigger weight until that steel, that 10-inch rod had elongated to be like 15 or 20 inches long. And they'll measure that. I think they called it tensile strength. And then there was the point that it broke. And that was like, there's another term for it. And if you know, you can write it in the description. But that was the maximum strength of that particular kind of steel. And so this was the scientific experiment that they set up. Well, they did this experiment with the two kinds of steel. The one, which is, we would just think of as regular steel, is, I think, technically called soft steel. So it's just not been worked with. It's untempered steel. And this is my little picture here. This steel, when they measured it in the scientific project, all my numbers are backward. Oh, I hate this. Okay, so this looks like Greek to you. My beautiful drawing, but you'll get it. The tempered steel, or sorry, the soft steel on this side, again, this was the one I wanted to start with, when it was it could only handle a maximum of 40,000 pounds before it was stretched beyond recognition. It couldn't return to its original shape, okay? And the breaking point was 65,000 pounds. At the breaking point, it could hold, or it could only handle 65,000 pounds before it broke. And I'm not going to go into the other numbers because they're meaningless, but those were the two numbers that really stood out to me. Oops. All right. So when they did the same experiment with what was the fancy word? Tempered steel. This is the imagery that we got. So the tempered steel could hold, and that's on my, if you can see it on this side here, on close to me. It could hold 215,000 pounds of. It could hold 215,000 pounds before it again was elongated to the point of breaking, and couldn't regain its shape. And then the breaking point was 240,000 pounds. So I want you to think about how different this type of metal is, the tempered steel, from the regular soft steel. And I say this because all for this very reason, because doing the 75-day hard is a metamorphic process. If you took science class sometime, probably in elementary, you've heard of metamorphic rock. And metamorphic rock was rock that was changed. Oh gosh, I've forgotten most of my rocks. I think there was igneous, sedimentary, and metamorphic rock. And I want to say metamorphic rock was it was one of the other kinds of rocks that was melded and welded and formed under incredible heat and pressure in the earth. Don't ask me any more questions about it because I will not, I won't get it. But it's that same word, metamorphic, metamorphosis, that a butterfly goes through to become or a caterpillar goes through a metamorphosis to become a butterfly. And tempered steel goes through a metamorphic process. Let me say this. Soft steel or regular steel goes through a metamorphic process to become tempered steel. And the way it becomes tempered steel is through hardship and difficulty, which is symbolized by that fiery furnace that what do you call the blacksmith is plunging that steel into the hot furnace and then immersing it in water, buckets of cold water, and back and forth from the fire to the water, hot and cold. And through that process of heating and cooling, or even air cooling, from what I understand, that steel is absolutely transformed. And so, I hope that you will really see the weight of this experience, these kind of things in our life that we do. Many of them, sometimes difficulty is thrust on us and we are thrown into situations where we have to grow and change. And sometimes we have to do it for ourselves, especially when we're dissatisfied with where we're at and we want to go to the next level. And this is by doing the 75-day hard or the 75 soft, doing the 75-day soft challenge. It might be a smaller component or the lighter version, but it's still radical if you haven't been doing anything. And even as radical as what I've put out on other videos and been talking about as well is doing mini habits or tiny habits, and something, just embracing one habit of change that can transform your life. And so I'd like to call it the 75 mini and play off of this. But if the 75 soft seems overwhelming to you, then and never mind the 75 hard, then do the 75 mini, which is just commit to doing one ridiculously simple mini habit for the next 75 days. And you can go look for other videos I've done on that. But the point being, this is voluntary, but it has the potential to be extremely and profoundly rewarding, and has changed countless lives already. And so I'm just excited to be doing this, challenging myself, but more than that, I am excited to be sharing it and doing it with you for those that are joining. And again, I had plans to launch the community group, but it's still in the works because of all the crazy yesterday. So I should have that up in the next day or two, and I'll drop links in all these videos just so you can pick up wherever it is. Anyway, I'll see you on the next one. Have a great rest of your day and stay committed, and we'll finish strong.